Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, as promised, we're going to start something of a special here on the channel. So as I promised you a few weeks ago, we're going to do a Trappist week where we go through a beer from each of the 7 original Trappist breweries. So we're going to kick this off with Brasserie today, who actually only do the one beer that's regularly available, although they do have another one at the monastery that you can check out. So as I said, we're going to go to Brasserie today and we're going to have a little look at the Orval beer, which should be quite interesting. This one has a little bit of Britannomyces and stuff in it. It comes in at 6.2% ABV and it should be really nice. I've never ever tried this beer before actually, so I'm definitely looking forward to this one and I hope you guys enjoy my take on it. So this will be number 1 of 7 in the Trappist special series that we're going to do. So anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery and the abbey and things that go along with this one. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll hopefully do in the future from Orval, although there is only other one beer I can review from these guys. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Belgian beers that I've reviewed for you before, and that's being constantly added to, of course. And please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys, and the support you show the channel is hugely appreciated, and I really do hope that you enjoy this Trappist week that we're going to do over the next few days. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brasserie d'Orval then. So the history of the Orval Abbey, or in French as it's known, the Abbaye Notre-Dame d'Orval, goes back to the year 1132. So the abbey was founded by Cistercian monks, and it's located at Villers-devant-Orval in Florenville in Luxembourg province in the southeastern part of Belgium. The nearest big recognisable city actually to this abbey is in fact Luxembourg City, the capital of Luxembourg, although there is Luxembourg province in the southeastern part of Belgium. But apparently there was a group of Benedictine monks on this site since 1070 at the invitation of Count Arnold of Chine, but after his death they were replaced by a community of canons regular who completed the work on the abbey church, which was subsequently consecrated in 1124. So in 1132 the Cistercian monks arrived from Trois Fontaines Abbey in Champagne, and the groups joined together to form a single Cistercian order under Abbot Constantine. So the monastery burnt down in 1252, and it took around 100 years to rebuild it, and during the 15th and 16th century the monastery was also affected by the various wars. In 1637, during the 30 Years' War, the abbey was burnt down and pillaged by French mercenaries, and in 1793, during the French Revolution, the abbey was actually burnt down by French forces after it had shown hospitality to Austrian troops, and the community after this dispersed. And this is what they say, that they have a second foundation of the abbey. So the land containing the ruins was actually bought by the Harem family in 1887, and they later donated it to the Cistercian order so they could resume and rebuild the monastic life that had taken place on the site beforehand. So under monk Marie Albert van der Cruyssen, a new monastery was constructed between 1926 and in 1948, but Orval regained the status of abbey in 1935, and in 1948 their new church was officially consecrated. So the present day brewery was established in 1931, and it was intended to provide a source of funds for the reconstruction efforts. There is however evidence that brewing was going on from the early days of the monastery, and in fact the last of the documented brewers was a brother Pierre, who brewed up until the 1732 fire. And the brewery and Orval glass that you see today, I don't have one of the Orval glasses unfortunately, but it was designed by Henry Vase, and the first beers were produced from the new brewery in May of 1932. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery. In fact, as I told you before, they only produced 2 beers. So they produced the Orval, and I believe this was the first one of the Trappist beers that was actually distributed around the whole of Belgium. So they have this one, and they also have the Petit Orval as well, which is the one that's brewed for the monks, and you can actually try that at the cafe that they have at the abbey as well, and I think you can actually buy a bottle of it. So I do need to go to Belgium at some point and actually see if I can get a hold of a bottle of that to review for you, because it seems to be a bit of a rare beer, so hopefully I can do that at some point in the future. But it's really cool to kick off with this one. As I said, the first Trappist beer that was distributed all around Belgium. So yeah, and as I say, my very first time trying this one as well. So without further ado then, let's actually get on to the tasting of this one. As I mentioned to you, it is 6.2% ABV, this one. Apparently if you leave it to age long enough, it can go up to around 7% ABV, and it says here that this one was bottled on the 23rd of February 2017 and it's best before the 23rd of February 2022, so it can last for about 5 years in the bottle. But yeah, it looks really nice. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one. It is quite simple, and of course Orval is very distinctive for this almost teardrop shaped bottle that it has. There you can see the Orval bottle top on this one. But yeah, really quite nicely presented, very distinctive of course. So without further ado then, I guess we should get this guy open. This one is a 33cl bottle of course, but let's get this out and get on with the tasting then. Yep, as you can see, a nice smoky opening, so let's get it out and into the glass. That's one of the things you always have to watch with these Belgian beers of course, is that they can explode, and you just have to kind of pour them with care because they will come out and have a lovely big head on them. But that looks lovely. Look how clear that beer is actually. We'll maybe just leave a little bit in the bottle and let it settle. But just look at that. In fact, we'll just put it all out. Why not? There we are. Most of it's in anyway. So as you can see, it has gotten a little bit more hazy as we've gotten down to the bottom of the bottle there. But as you can see, it's a lovely. If I just hold that right up to the camera, I'm not sure how well you can see the light through that. I'll just bring this light down and see if that helps it a little bit. But you can see it's a really kind of almost coppery orange colour. It's like a blood orange colour, this beer, which is really nice, and it does have a little bit of haze to it. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see there is a degree of transparency to it, but it is kind of quite opaque and quite hazy. There's a solid 2 fingers of a frothy white head on this one. It's a kind of creamy coloured head actually on this. It's not perfect white, and there's a wee tinge of beige to it. There's 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there, but overall it looks really quite nice. So it isn't quite the colour I was expecting from this one, but I wasn't sure exactly what to expect from this beer, because it's not a double, triple, quadruple, blonde or anything like that. I think it's just a beer that they've kind of uniquely designed themselves. It just says on Rate Beer, of course, that this guy is a Belgian ale, and I think it's listed as that on Beer Advocate as well, but it looks very, very nice. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh yeah. That's really interesting. I mean, you can smell some of that lovely Belgian yeast in there. So of course you've got a bit of that sort of bready, doughy thing. There's a little bit of a spicy character as well, and almost kind of peppery, slightly cinnamony spice or something like that. But yeah, it's got this really distinctive kind of woody and leathery note coming out of it. Yeah, that's a really unusual thing. You can get a little bit of the earthy and kind of grassy notes from the floral hops as well. I do suspect they've probably used some German hops in here. But it smells really, really nice. It's just really distinctive because of the sort of the woody, leathery, almost it's definitely more woody and leathery. It's not really sweet enough to be nuts, but it has this really distinctive leathery note, and it's got quite a it's got almost a kind of orchard note to it. It's got this kind of slightly appley, peary ester coming out as well. But that's really interesting. I don't think I've ever smelt a Trappist beer that is quite like that, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to start this series with this one, because I did hear it was quite unique, and of course it was the first one to be distributed all throughout Belgium, so I thought a very good place to start. But that's a really distinctive aroma. The kind of woody and sort of leathery notes, the kind of apple, peary esters that you get out of this beer are really interesting. Some grassy, slightly floral hop in there, a bit of earthiness as well, and like I said, some of that typical Belgian sort of bready, doughy yeast kind of thing. There's a little bit of an almost kind of not quite caramelly, but a bit of a biscuity sweetness to it as well. You can pick up a little bit of that, but really it's leaning more towards the kind of bready side of things and those appley, kind of orchardy esters as well. But it's a really quite interesting smelling beer. It's not one that's going to jump out of the glass at you in terms of aroma, but there's a lot of subtleties and things going on in there. And you can pick up just a wee touch of a red kind of fruity ester and a little bit of a lemony citrus as well. So it's a really interesting aroma, this one, and when it is kind of such a special beer with so much history and stuff behind the Abbey, then do take a little bit of time just to enjoy the aroma. As I always say, half the experience when it comes to craft beer and whiskey and things like that is the aroma of the beer, so just take that in and enjoy it. But let's get stuck into this one then. So this one is the Orval from Brasserie d'Orval, one of the Trappist breweries, one of the 6 original Trappist breweries of Belgium, and one of the 7 original Trappist breweries. Let's get stuck in. Prost. I should say santé as well. Belgium, of course, is a dual language country. But that's really quite nice. It's not as sweet as I was expecting it to be. Yeah, this one's really leaning towards the kind of bready and doughy side of things. You can pick up a little bit of that Brettanomyces in there as well. It just has a little tiny bit of tartness, and of course, as the beer ages, since there is Brettanomyces in there, the flavour will change a little bit. So just be aware of that. When you get a bottle of this, have a look at the age. But that is nice. It's really different from what I'm normally used to with Belgian beers. Normally with Belgian beers you get that big doughy, bready, yeasty thing, but then you get a lot of caramel sweetness and stuff. I'm not finding this beer to really be that sweet at all. It is more of a bready and kind of sort of woody, earthy kind of thing. This is really interesting. It is definitely a change of pace for me, at least. But as I always say, sugar the beer around your palate and let your whole mouth adjust to it before you actually start examining the flavour properly. So yeah, with this one, you've got a nice kind of lighter bready malt base to this one. You can feel that just underpinning the beer. On top of that, you can feel a little bit of that thicker kind of doughy bready character that you would, doughy yeasty character, sorry, that you would expect of the Belgian beers. There's a little bit of a spicy character in the middle of the palate as well, and in the middle of my palate I'm also getting a little bit of this kind of slightly dry, grainy character, which is quite interesting. It's just a very, very unusual beer, this one, in terms of, or for me at least, from what I'm used to from Belgian beer, so it is a nice change of pace, and it does make you think. I mean, when you've done 1,100 beer videos, you know, you want something that is going to be slightly different that you can think about. But yeah, so you can pick up that woody, leathery note that I was talking about that you could get in the aroma. In this one, to me, there is a bit of a woodiness. The woody character starts to come out a little bit more in the aftertaste, and you can just get that sort of leathery sweetness right in the middle of your tongue. There's maybe a wee tiny, tiny little bit of biscuit, but there's not that much sweetness to this beer at all. It's mainly the bready, sort of a yeasty character and some of that grainy character, that grainy sort of spicy note that's in the middle of the palate too. So it is a very, very distinctive beer. It's nowhere near as sweet as you would normally expect from some of these Belgian beers. And of course it's 6.2% as well, now that I think about it. When it comes to Belgian beer, this one's actually pretty low in alcohol compared to a lot of them. A lot of them go up to, you know, 7, 8 and even 9%, some of them into the 10% region, of course. So this one is quite low in alcohol compared to others, so that's maybe the reason why it's not quite as sweet, because normally they do use the kind of brown sugar flavours to mask the alcohol. But that's nice, I do like that. It's just a completely different, a complete change of pace, if you like, from what I'm normally used to with Belgian beers. On the hoppy side of things, in the back corners of the palate, there's a little bit of earthiness in there. As you come further forward, it does have a little bit of a slightly herbal character, and you can feel just a little bit of a slightly herbal kind of floral bitterness as you move towards the front corners of your palate. Then around the very front curve of the tongue, it's just a little bit lighter and grassy, but there is a good little bit of floral character in there that does give the beer a little bit of bitterness. As you go further into the aftertaste, you can just feel a little bit of that bitterness kind of lingering. But it really is quite nice. And of course then you've got the fruity side of the beer. So if you just go behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you'll get this nice little oily bubble where the fruity characters start to come out. So you can feel that that the Brettanomyces is there. It's got that kind of distinctive, slightly sharp, tart, citricy character coming out of it, but it's quite a dark lemony citrus that's coming out of this one. And as you move further and further into the aftertaste, it starts to get a little bit of a kind of it starts to morph into a slightly apple and kind of peary ester. Right, you've seen how long it was since I took a sip of this beer, and to me now I'm starting to get a little bit of that kind of apple peary ester, but initially it starts off with that kind of oily, quite dark lemony flavour. And it's just really interesting how this one goes together. For me, from what I'm used to with Belgian beer, as I've repeated a few times, this one's just nowhere near as sweet as the likes of the Triple or the Double or the Quadruple or anything like this. This one is something just completely different. And the sort of distinct, I guess the kind of trademark of this beer must be those sort of woody, leathery flavours that it's got. But to me, it's really nice, and I do like trying different things from all over the place. So I have to say to Brasserie d'Orval, thumbs up on this one, and I do definitely want to have a go at the Petit Orval and see how that one turns out. I'm interested just to see what the difference is. Maybe it's a bit sweeter and things like that, but this one for me, in the Belgian beer context, it is certainly very unique, and it is one of these kind of talismanic beers as well, because it is so widely available. If you think of Belgian beer, Orval and Chimay and things like this are the ones that you're going to think of, so this one really is very nice, and it is cool to start off with this one in the series. In terms of the mouthfeel of the beer then, I would say it's mid-bodied. I think it's fair to say it's mid-bodied. The carbonation on this one is a little bit sparkly. That's a kind of common thing with Belgian beer, of course. It's got a slight smoothness to the mouthfeel, but at the same time it's a bit oily. Like I said, there's a little bit of bitterness from the hops. The malt base on this one doesn't really have sweetness to it, which, as I was saying, is quite interesting. It's quite smooth, but at the same time it does have a little bit of a kind of dry, grainy character. There is a tiny little bit of tartness to it, but there's not much in the way of juicy fruit in this. It is a kind of tartness, and then it just kind of morphs into that very smooth sort of apple peary ester. The aftertaste is definitely some of the grainy and sort of leathery woody characters of the beer, a little bit of the slightly floral hop, and then that sort of appley peary ester as well. But overall, it's certainly a nice beer, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. It's really interesting just to try this finally. I've seen it around so much, but I've just never got around to actually trying it because it is that common. When you're doing beer reviews and stuff, you tend to buy the beers that you're not going to see so often, so it is very cool to finally get around to reviewing this one for you, especially for this kind of Trappist special that we're going to do over the next few days. But really cool to start off with this one, and it is a very unique beer. So if you like sort of woody and leathery flavours and things like that, this one really is going to hit the spot for you. But yeah, I think that's a good way to sum up this beer. A really quite unusual beer for me in terms of what I'm used to in the Belgian context, but a very good beer nonetheless, and very distinctive of course as well. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed my take on the Orval. It's been really cool to kick off this this Belgian or this Trappist week for you with this one, so I hope you've enjoyed my take on this beer. As always, if you have enjoyed the review, please do consider like, subscribing, sharing, all of the usual kind of YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below, and hopefully we can return to this brewery and review the Petit Orval in the fairly near future. So until the next time, it's Slanger just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Orval from Brasserie d'Orval in Luxembourg province in the southeast of Belgium. You will see another Trappist beer review coming up tomorrow, but it's been really cool to kick off the series with this one. Slanger just now.